When this elderly woman was getting robbed, bus driver did the unthinkable. In the early morning light of a Hungarian town, a vulnerable old woman had no idea that she would be faced with a robber looking to steal everything she owned. What this bus driver did next, you won't believe. In the shadow of a past marred by conflict and strife, Ahmed found solace in the quiet streets of Miskolc, Hungary. Having served as a soldier in the Iraqi army, his life had been one of constant vigilance, the air thick with the tension of impending battles and the ground littered with the remnants of the day's skirmishes. The decision to leave Iraq was not made lightly, but the turmoil that enveloped his homeland left him with little choice. Seeking peace and a fresh start, Ahmed, along with his wife Shaya, embarked on a journey that would lead them to Hungary, a country they now call home. For the past 5 years, Ahmed had embraced a life vastly different from his previous existence. The transformation from a soldier to a public transportation bus driver in Miskolc symbolized not just a change in occupation, but a profound shift in his outlook on life. Ahmed's relationship with Shaya, his steadfast partner through the upheavals of life, had deepened in their new environment. Their home, a modest apartment filled with the mementos of their journey and dreams for the future, became a sanctuary. One crisp morning, as dawn broke and the first light of day crept through the curtains, Ahmed and Shaya sat at their kitchen table sipping tea. The steam from their cups mingled in the air, creating a warm haze that seemed to envelop them in a cocoon of comfort. Shaya broke the silence, her voice soft but filled with emotion. "Do you remember the nights in Iraq, Ahmed? The fear, the uncertainty? I used to lie awake praying for your safe return." Ahmed looked into Shaya's eyes, the memories flooding back. "I remember, Shaya. Those were dark times, but they seem like a distant nightmare now. Here in Hungary, we've found our peace. I no longer wear a uniform, no longer hold a gun. Driving my bus, watching the people go about their lives, it's a kind of healing. I'm grateful for every day, for the quiet and normalcy." Shaya reached across the table, taking Ahmed's hand in hers. "I'm grateful too. Here I don't spend my days worrying about your safety. I see how this peace has changed you, how you smile more, how the weight of the past seemed to have lifted from your shoulders." Ahmed squeezed her hand gently, acknowledging their shared journey from darkness to light. "In Iraq, I was a soldier, defined by my duty to fight, but that was never who I wanted to be. Here I can be myself, Ahmed the bus driver, the husband, the hopeful dreamer. It's as if we've been given a second chance at life." Shaya smiled, her heart full. "Yes, a second chance, and we've built a beautiful life here, haven't we? I remember when we first arrived, how everything seemed so unfamiliar, so daunting. But this community, the city, it embraced us, and now it feels like home." As the morning light grew stronger, casting long shadows on the kitchen floor, Ahmed glanced at the clock. It was time to leave for work. He stood up, finishing the last of his tea, and Shaya rose with him, helping him into his jacket. "Be safe today," she said, her voice a soft murmur as if invoking a blessing. Ahmed leaned down, kissing her forehead. "I will. Every day I drive my bus, I'm reminded of how far we've come, of the peace we've found. I'll be home before you know it." With a final glance, Ahmed stepped out into the early morning, the door closing softly behind him. Shaya watched from the window as he walked down the street, a figure receding into the distance but never far from her heart. In that moment, as the sun rose higher, illuminating the city of Miskolc, there was a profound sense of gratitude and hope. In the same town where Ahmed and Shaya found their sanctuary, Aranka, an 85-year-old widow, faced the dawn of each day with a resilience that belied her years and her frailty. Living alone in a small rundown apartment complex known more for its disrepair and the dubious characters it attracted than for any semblance of comfort or security, Aranka navigated her days with a cautious determination. The loss of her husband over 15 years ago had left a void in Aranka's life, one that was compounded by her increasing mobility issues. With each passing year, the simple acts of daily living became more challenging. Aranka's world shrank as her ability to move freely diminished, leaving her reliant on a cane and a walker, her pace painfully slow. Despite the adversity she faced, both from her physical limitations and her environment, Aranka clung to her routines with a tenacity that was both admirable and heart-wrenching. Among these routines, one held a place of particular importance: her daily pilgrimage for fresh bread. For Aranka, the taste of fresh bread was not just a culinary preference, it was a lifeline to a world that seemed to be slipping further away from her grasp with each passing day. Each morning, before the sun had even begun to hint at its arrival, Aranka would ready herself for the journey. Dressing in the pre-dawn darkness, she would arm herself with her cane and walker, bracing for the ordeal ahead. The streets of Miskolc, still shrouded in the remnants of night, offered little in the way of safety or comfort to an elderly woman venturing out alone. The route to the bakery was fraught with challenges for someone in Aranka's condition. The uneven sidewalks, the occasional group of unsavory characters loitering in the shadows, and the sheer physical exertion required were obstacles that many would find insurmountable. Yet for Aranka, the prospect of returning home with a loaf of warm, fresh bread was a beacon of hope, a small yet significant triumph over the confines of her existence. The bakery, a modest establishment that had been a fixture in the neighborhood for decades, became an oasis in the midst of a landscape that often felt hostile. The bakers, familiar with Aranka's daily visits, would greet her with a kindness that was as nourishing as the bread they baked. It was a brief interaction, yet for Aranka, it represented a vital connection to the community, a reminder that she was not entirely forgotten. This daily ritual, though seemingly mundane, was a testament to Aranka's spirit, to her refusal to succumb to the darkness that encroached upon her life. In the act of seeking out fresh bread, Aranka asserted her agency, her dignity, in the face of adversity. It was a quiet rebellion, a declaration that even in her twilight years she would not be defined by her vulnerabilities, but rather by her indomitable will to find joy in the simplest of pleasures. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, casting a soft glow on the streets of Miskolc, Hamsat stirred from his makeshift bed in an alley. The pangs of hunger gnawed at him with an intensity that made his stomach ache. Life on the streets had hardened him, shaping him into a survivor, but it was survival that came at a cost. Abandoned as a child, Hamsat had learned the ways of the street out of sheer necessity, becoming adept at pickpocketing and thievery to fend off the gnawing hunger and cold. This morning, driven by a hunger more acute than ever, Hamsat resolved to find a target. His mind was clouded with the urgency of his need, blinding him to the moral quandaries of his actions. As he prepared to set out, he crossed paths with Elek, his only friend and confidant, who'd also been dealt a harsh hand by life. Unlike Hamsat, however, Elek had always steered clear of thievery, holding on to a moral compass that had somehow remained intact despite the adversity he faced. Hamsat, with a sense of purpose burning in his chest, turned to Elek, his voice low and urgent. I can't take this hunger anymore, Elek. I'm going out to find someone, just enough to buy food, nothing more. Elek, his brow furrowed in concern, recognized the desperation in Hamsat's voice, but couldn't suppress the urge of disapproval that rose within him. Hamsat, there has to be another way. Stealing's not the answer. You might think it's just for today, just to get by, but it's a path that's hard to leave once you're on it. Hamsat's eyes flashed with a mix of frustration and determination. What choice do I have, Elek? Wait for someone to take pity? I'm starving. I've been abandoned by this world. I need to survive. Elek, his voice steady but filled with emotion, tried to reach his friend's better nature. I know you're in pain, I know you're hungry, but think of those you're targeting. What if it's someone like Aranka, the old lady who can barely walk? She's out there too, trying to survive in her own way. Taking from her, it's not survival, Hamsat. It's causing harm to someone who's as vulnerable as you. Hamsat paused, the image of an elderly woman making her way through the streets, vulnerable and alone, momentarily piercing the veil of his desperation. But the gnawing in his stomach quickly dispelled any flicker of doubt. I'll be careful. I won't target someone like that, but I have to do something, Elek. I can't just sit here and starve. Elek reached out, placing a hand on Hamsat's shoulder, a gesture of solidarity and despair. There's always a choice, Hamsat. Let's find another way together. There has to be something we can do that doesn't involve stealing. Hamsat shrugged off Elek's hand, his resolve hardening. I've made up my mind. I'm going. I'll see you later, Elek. Hamsat, his body tense with hunger and desperation, roamed the streets in search of an easy target. His gaze landed on Aranka, and a twisted sense of opportunity flashed through his mind. Rationalizing his actions as a means to satiate his hunger, he decided to make his move. With a surge of adrenaline, he approached Aranka, his intentions clear as he reached for her purse. Aranka, despite her age and frailty, was not one to surrender easily. The purse to her was more than just an object. It was her independence, her ability to care for herself in a world that seemed increasingly indifferent. As Hamsat attempted to snatch it away, she resisted with a surprising strength, her voice rising in a mix of fear and defiance. No, please don't do this. The commotion caught the attention of Ahmed, who was en route to his job as a bus driver. The sounds of distress propelled him into action, his instincts honed not from his current peaceful profession but from his past as a soldier. Rounding the corner, he witnessed the struggle between Hamsat and Aranka. Without hesitation, Ahmed's voice boomed across the street, a commanding presence that startled Hamsat. Stop! Leave her alone! Hamsat, taken aback by Ahmed's authoritative intervention, dropped the purse in a moment of panic. Fear of being caught, or perhaps a flicker of conscience awakened by Ahmed's outcry, spurred him to flee. Aranka, her heart racing from the ordeal, looked up at her rescuer, her eyes filled with gratitude and relief. Thank you so much, she managed to say, her voice trembling with the aftermath of fear and the effort of the confrontation. Ahmed approached her, ensuring that she was unharmed. Are you okay? He asked, his concern evident. The sight of Aranka, so vulnerable and defiant, stirred a deep respect within him. No one should have to face such fear, especially not someone of your courage. Ahmed, while assisting her to collect her belongings, offered a comforting smile. It's over now, you're safe, but let me walk you to the bakery just to be sure. His offer was not just a gesture of protection, but an affirmation of the community's strength in the face of adversity. Following the harrowing incident, Ahmed accompanied Aranka to the bakery, ensuring her safety and comfort. Once Aranka was secure and on her way home with her cherished loaf of bread, Ahmed, feeling a responsibility to prevent future incidents, decided to report the attempted robbery to the local police. Upon reaching the police station, Ahmed was greeted by a police officer who promptly took him aside for a statement. The officer, a middle-aged man with a stern yet approachable demeanor, listened intently as Ahmed recounted the events. "Can you describe the individual who attempted the robbery?" the officer asked, pen poised above his notepad ready to jot down every detail. Ahmed nodded, the image of Hamzat etched in his memory. Yes, he was young, perhaps early 20s. Slim build with dark hair and eyes. He wore a hooded jacket, dark in color which covered most of his face, but it was his eyes. There was desperation in them more than malice. Later that day, a piece of news broke on a local station that caught the attention of many, including Ahmed, who had just returned home from his shift. The news anchor reported that a young man matching the description provided by a concerned citizen earlier in the day had been found and arrested. If stories of heroism and bravery are what you like, then keep coming back for more because we have plenty more to come.